Welcome everyone. It's Urban Pro Wrestling, and I told you guys that I was acquiring talent. I meant with what I said, and of course, the train keeps on rolling because we have acquired yet another talented individual. Xander Maddox, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Honestly, it's going good. It's been a whirlwind this week, just trying to trying to fit it all in 24 hours. It's been hard, but that's the ins and outs of life. So I immediately wanted to start off with because professional wrestling, as you know, is a crazy industry to get involved in. It
It is.
is a roller coaster of a ride. So, what was kind of what was your first like exposure that you can remember of pro wrestling?
I remember when I was in high school, I used to do Olympic wrestling. I did that for like 4 years straight, and this it was this one of my friends had their parents do like a backyard pro wrestling school.
Mhm.
So I was like, all right, let me try it. I couldn't afford it because it was like $100 a month, but he let me try it for free. So I was like, all right, that's what really got me into it. That was my like first experience.
So with backyard wrestling, so I've heard so many different things about it. How was the experience for you?
it was it was like I could say a stepping stone, but it wasn't like, oh, I wanted more out of it.
So the next question is going back to high school. I think so. 4 years of Olympic wrestling, and anytime I think of wrestling, I'm a big mixed martial arts fan, primarily of the UFC. Was that ever possibly a career path for you? You ever thought of
Of doing like UFC or like Olympic wrestling.
Olympic wrestling, UFC, anything like that in general?
I was really passionate about Olympic wrestling, but I couldn't really get any like scholarships with it because it's hard with the Olympic wrestling within high school. It's hard. So when I looked into wrestling, I used to watch it like wrestling when I was a little kid. So it was easy to get into.
Were there any like early inspirations for you, like when you were a kid?
Um, as a little kid, I watched Jeff Hardy all the time, so I was inspired by that.
What a role model to have! What a role model! Whew, man, that guy. Seeing him in person was definitely amazing. Some of the things he did were nuts. Don't know if you ever been to the Impact Zone, or back when it was that.
No.
Oh man, you missed out on some really awesome, awesome moments with Jeff Hardy. And the funny thing about that is, so taking inspiration from Jeff, I want to ask this. I know some kids who were Jeff Hardy fans would try the stunts as kids. Were you one of those?
Yeah, I broke my bed like multiple times by doing that.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were all in. Like that right there takes dedication and some like massive guts. And to kind of like segue too, I always ask wrestlers this. I'm always curious because there's technical wrestling, there's strong style, Scotch wrestling, pure mat wrestling, also technical, high flying, luchadors. There's a whole bunch. What is kind of your style?
um, I'm a kind of a high flying, grounded person. Like I high fly when I need to, but I stay grounded.
And that actually makes sense. Because how much has it taken from Olympic wrestling to pro wrestling?
I you say how I'm like how different is it or like
Not necessarily like how different, but how much were you able to kind of take and adapt it to the pro wrestling environment?
it was hard to like I guess it was hard to it was kind of it wasn't difficult. It was kind of easy because it was kind of similar styles. I put into I used to do with shoot wrestling. I put into this. So
When you first started training to be like a professional wrestler, what was kind of the hardest part for you, but also what was the easiest?
My fears of heights. That was the hardest part.
Wow,
Taking
you're
that
a high
from
flyer.
the top, that was the hardest.
Like, what kind of got you? Like obviously, I'm guessing over time you kind of learned to like, get past that, but to adapt to high flying, that must have been interesting, especially because Jeff Hardy's like your guy. So it's
Yeah,
well, can you take it into kind of like the psychology of that for a little bit? Like, what was kind of the big fear of the heights? Just kind of landing awkwardly, or
is a difference between doing it on your bed and then doing it in the ring with a far type of heights. Like first, like as soon as you learn how to like bump like properly, it's just trusting yourself basically and not thinking about it. Because when you overthink and you just do it, then you end up landing wrong, hurting yourself, stuff like that. So it's all about trusting yourself.
that's a good one. It's funny. 'Cause I'm like a massive overthinker, so that's interesting to see. Oh my. And then for the easiest part,
For the what?
for like the easiest part of it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, my bad. So for like the easiest part of kind of learning,
The easiest part is learning the for me is like the basics of wrestling because it's like learning similar basics of wrestling in Olympic wrestling. So
did you ever feel necessarily like, especially in your matches, feel I see that technically you are really smooth, as smooth as butter, so someone would say. And obviously having the Olympic wrestling background, and then high flying. So you have got an interesting style. You're not necessarily a hybrid, but you are a dual combination. And how were you able to kind of sequence that all together for it to mesh very well?
it honestly took time. I didn't know what type of what type of style I was going to search for. But a lot of people was like, "Oh yeah, you're small, high flying." I was like, I think I do more. Like I see smaller people do more than high flying now in these days.
Yeah, yeah. Rey Mysterio is a great example of that. I think people, yeah, mistaken. And for to study high flying, was it just Jeff Hardy, or were there a lot of other inspirations that came with that?
Um, I would say um Dan Maliko
Really?
with his technical style. Yeah, I wanted to always copy that. I'm still working on it, but
The next question is how many holds have you like put into your arsenal?
how much what?
How many holds have you gotten into your arsenal? The man of 1,000 holds. It's tough to live up to.
Hmm, I got at least 10 so far.
10 solid ones. I see that's what's up. Still got a whole bunch more to go, but hopefully someday you get
Yeah.
to that moniker. And I've always found your finisher interesting. I know for one, I'm always one to definitely botch and butcher it. So I always ask the wrestlers to definitely explain it. So you guys can explain it better than I can. If you want to take it away, man, with that one.
My finisher is basically a spin kick to the head. That's it. Like a Trouble in Paradise. If you
I've seen a lot of different styles. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. And I've always asked, and I'll probably ask this off air because I don't want to like mix up too much. Um, as a wrestler, what is for you the strongest? Not say the strongest. What do you think is the most important aspect of being inside the ring, like psychology wise?
was like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
That's probably a tough one. Um, in terms of like psychology, especially in being inside the ring, like what to you is the most important aspect of the in ring psychology?
Believing what you like when you get in the ring, believing that you're that character, that you're that person. Because if you don't believe it, then nobody else will.
That's solid. And for you, it seems to be more necessarily not necessarily storytelling, but definitely fan interaction.
With fan interactions.
Yeah.
It's been times that people wanted to like fight me, especially like it's been a time I've been in Ocala. People just wanted to fight me.
Ocala is a strange place.
Yes.
They got a great wrestling crowd. Can you actually like? I'm not gonna ask how long ago this was, but like the story behind it, I definitely want to know. Like how intense was that?
I was in a triple threat, and I was sent out of the ring. I was sent out of the ring, and the dude was like, "Oh, get back in the ring." I was like, "Shut up! How you about you get your fat ass back in the ring?" And the dude was about to jump over, but the cameraman was right there, so he was like, "Nah, you better not."
That's crazy. So you just drawing heat. Oh man. Thank God the cameraman was there. I can only
Yes.
imagine. You know, like did you have a drink or anything? I'm sure he didn't throw that. Yeah, I think
Man.
when the craziest ones, uh, just seeing someone throw a whole like beer on someone. So that was interesting. But
No, I went to a show and I ripped out a sign. I had to do a run in, so I did the run in, and then I ripped a sign for this dude that I was beating up. So
damn. So you're just Mondo here, like anything to get the heat.
yeah.
Hey, that's the way to do it. It gets attention. And so you definitely, clearly like to cause trouble.
Sometimes I
So,
like to play with people's emotions.
oh, see, you're good. You're good. Um, to follow that up. So obviously, it seems to be for you more or less. You definitely favor being a heel. How did you kind of come into just being comfortable with that? You know, like some people, it's a little bit harder than others. How was it for you? Like, was the transition to kind of being a heel easier, or was it a little bit more difficult?
Um, I find being a heel is much easier than being a face because you can do whatever you want, especially in matches. You can control the match.
That's, damn. All right, I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
So for for being a heel, do you feel it's a lot more rewarding to be?
Yeah, it's a lot more words to being a heel because when you're being a face, you're trying to seek for everybody's approval, which is hard for everybody to like you. You know, someone's gotta hate you.
That's easy, yeah. And it's interesting 'cause I realize like with your character, it is super complex. And I feel like it's complex in a good way because it reminds me a little bit of what's his name? It's one of the Jokers, and it's not Caesar Romero necessarily, which is the OG of Jokers. If his name is correct, Jack Nicholson or Nicholson. I don't know one's a golfer, but that one, the one who played that, you have an interesting personality where you can be very calm and like collective. You can also be kind of nuts. So it's how was what obviously there was inspiration, but which Joker do you kind of feel like you take a little bit more inspiration from?
What inspiration? Where I get my inspiration from which
Yeah,
Joker?
yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say either of them. I try to be my own, like my own new
And your
brand.
own spin.
Yeah.
See that right there, I was really wondering that. I remember because I looked and I was like, it's interesting because like you can see the comparisons to I feel smaller aspects that like you take, but it's actually like a collective and that you made it your own too. I've got to ask, what how did you kind of come up with the character?
Um, when I first came up with the character, it was letters. I just named myself XMD. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna name myself XMD. And then the person I used to do backyard wrestling with. I'm gonna shout him out. Danny Cruz. I used to do background. He was like, "You gotta come up with a name, man, because ain't nobody gonna be behind XMD." I was like, "All right, what's the X stands for?" Xander M Maddox. Throw the D away. Xander Maddox. Sorry.
There you go. So that I like it. I like it. So creatively, it seems to be like you kind of really just you had an idea and you've really kind of taken it and made it your own. I think it's really cool. Um, when it came to necessarily just kind of building the character to where you knew it was going to be heelish, did you have any like problems with that? Knowing that, all right, it's because you obviously want to stay like within a certain range of being your own version of like a Joker, but Joker I feel has always been a bad guy for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So how is it to kind of take that type of character, make it your own, but also apply it to a wrestling type of sense?
Um, to be honest, I had to find myself first because is my character is more of myself, but the things I like about things I like and admire. And I really like the Joker. Like I'm a big fan of the Joker, as you can tell, my gear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it took a long time to find myself then to become the character. Because it's basically myself turned up to a 10.
Someone else I've interviewed said the exact same thing, something different. So I'm kind of smiling because that line that you just said was something I've heard before. I'm like, huh, interesting. Definitely gonna talk about like, did you teach that? Because that I'm laughing, damn. Um, but overall, in terms of like in terms of really breaking down wrestling, obviously I think for you, was there anyone that you kind of studied the most? Or, like, was there any like storylines that you kind of studied the most to kind of gear your character in a certain type of way?
Um, Not really. I've been studying myself, like see what I can bring to the table that'll be different for wrestling. So that's the basics I've been studying.
So with that, what do you feel like right now is your strongest, like the strongest aspect that you have?
Um, Getting people to believe in my character.
And
So
what
when I
about
come out, they believe I'm that person instead of, oh, he's just trying to be.
and what do you think would kind of be your weakest?
Hmm?
And what do you think would kind of be like your weakest?
Um, I would say, I honestly want to say being a face because I hate it the most. Because
Really?
people boo me when I come out. Regardless. It depends on which crowd. So yeah, honestly, I would say being a face is the weakest.
That's like, that's interesting. I feel like I could have sworn like watching your plays, I was like he could play face. And I started like looking. I was like he gets hated. That's like man, it's like it's just him. It's just a character. It's hard to tell, and you really do draw people in. I really like that about you, is that you have a very unique way of drawing people in, and it's not one of those things where you lose them, you keep them. I feel like that was what really I think draws attention to you, the fact that you really have a great idea of audience attention, and I think it's something very special that you have. Um, and psychologically, yeah, I think your in-ring psychology. I think something I don't think people really do too much. It's really, really interesting to see how you kind of go about your matches. And I wanted to actually ask that, like, have you ever found it hard to necessarily put on a match? Like sequence wise and something like that.
I used to. Sometimes like after training so much, it clicks fast. Like sometimes I make matches on the fly.
So
So it's
with
just
that,
it
oh,
took a
really?
while. It took a while because I just started doing it this year, making matches on the fly. So it took a while.
When did it finally kind of all click for you? When you started, all right, I'm getting better at this.
Or getting the basics of the psychology in the ring. Because it's kind of confusing at first, but then as soon as you start getting into the ring and start going throughout the 5 steps and stuff like that, you start to get used to the whole where to put matches, like where to put moments in matches.
All right. And what match did you kind of feel like after it, like, all right, I've gotten here, awesome.
What matches like what?
Like what match did you kind of feel like you really did put everything to like after you were like, all right, you really put everything together. Like I like you kind of seen where you wanted to be and like you hit that point, if not exceeded that point.
Uh my match against is one of my closest friends. His name is Baby Key, the sanitizer. He's at Magic City. He's doing his thing. Yeah, it was my match against him. That's because we was planning nothing but the finish, and we figured everything out in the ring.
Oh
And
wow.
let's say that was the most funnest match I ever had, and the crowd was wild on that one. So, and it was the best in the match of the night. It was fourth. We were fourth on the card. It was the best match of the night. So,
Yeah, awesome. The see the next one I had is so for you, what's kind of the goal?
um, my goal, um, as a wrestler is to make it in New Japan. But personally, my goal is to basically be better for the future,
Constantly
like for future wrestlers.
Oh damn, all right. One of the things that I've always obviously you see a belt here, um, and I've always kind of wondered. Yeah, I've always been told, and I want to get your opinion on this because I've always said if you're not in the business to be a champion, what are you doing? How do you kind of is that true?
That is true because when you're in the business, if you have a name bigger than a champion, bigger than a championship, then it's like that's big. So to have that like Sting, his name is bigger than any championship. Like he's his own, you know.
It is
So
his own like
I hope
entity at this
I'll
point.
be at that point in my career. But yeah, that's
So I,
true in a way.
so I always love to kind of get everyone's like person where they want to be. It shows true passion. I think that to me is what I want everyone to see is a passion. I love having people that really want to make this a career. You know, I think those are the people that work the hardest. And clearly, obviously, you're definitely one of those people. And I kind of wanted so what would you kind of tell someone who is just or either wanting to get into this business or is in the business but doesn't really know what they're doing or where they want to go? What would you kind of give that advice to them? Or what would you say?
Um, I would tell them because this this whole industry is not for the weak. It's not. Like it's gonna be times that it's gonna be rough, but you gotta fight through it. And it's hard to make it. It's hard to make it, but it's all about who you know.
There you go. Anything worthwhile is difficult. Great line from Billy Bean. And last but not least, what are your goals in urban pro wrestling?
to be the best wrestler, to show you all of Xander Maddox, the real X Factor.
Gosh, where did you get that nickname from?
The real X Factor?
Yeah.
It just means the real Xander Factor.
Oh, okay. That was like I thought of X Factor. Then I thought of the show, and I was like, is that what he means? Okay. But no, I honestly, I think that right there kind of sums up my questions. This is normally the part where I just kind of, if you have any social media that you want to plug, go right ahead.
You guys can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Xander Maddox, where I post vlogs every Thursday. I have the Instagram, the real _X_ factor. Follow me on Instagram. I think that's pretty much it. I don't really have, I got Facebook, Xander Maddox.
All right. And with that, also, folks, follow us on Instagram at Urban Pro Wrestling, Twitter, Urban PW, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. That's where you guys are going to be seeing this. Urban Pro Wrestling. Subscribe. What are you waiting for? And of course, our Facebook page, Urban Pro Wrestling. I will definitely actually start posting more stuff in there for you guys. I promise. I know I haven't done that lately. I promise I will. And we've got a website coming out, merchandise like this coming out, different logos, things like that. The beauty, really nice, but like really comfortable. Children's shirts, you can't beat them. So, with that, that's my awesome No Limits Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Xander Maddox. He signed to Urban Pro Wrestling. And everyone, hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.